And then you have those who are doing things for political aims. And what I mean when I say these guys aren't rational actors is you can't sit down to them and say, right, well, our position is such and such and yours is such and such, and, we can have a bit of a compromise. I mean, how can you have compromise with people who would like to wipe out the whole way you conduct yourself, for example, in this society? It's not possible. These are not rational actors.
Let me just go back to the questioner. Your question about would you punish those who have committed those acts? What is your position on that? Would you stand up and tell us what you feel about that?
I think they should be punished because it's like they're murderers. You don't just walk up to a murderer and tell them, oh, yes, you killed someone, and then you discuss it with them. You send them to prison, and they get punished for the bad things they did, and that's how it should be.
All right, let's move on to a gentleman in the second row. Your question, please, sir.
What other means do you propose, besides having direct talks with Al-Qaeda, that will ensure a permanent solution, not just a temporary one?
Laith, Kubba.
I would suggest 3. Number 1, immunizing the Muslim public by exposing the real nature of Al-Qaeda, both its twisted theology, its unrealistic, simplistic ideology. We need to expose them. Number 2, certainly addressing the conditions that had led to their growth, whatever the issues are, and there are a very long list of issues, tough ones facing Muslim countries, especially the youth. But the third one, which is most important, you need strong intelligence. It takes only 6 people, Al-Qaeda affiliates, in a city of 1 million to create havoc in that city. And you need strong intelligence. Every single Muslim, every single institution should take its responsibility in fighting this cancer. Otherwise, we're all doomed, and they will cause death and death until they are stopped.
I notice
These are the things that we have been doing for the last many years. They have not produced result. They have increased the resentment amongst the people. Instead of winning their hearts and minds, we keep saying that we will do it this way, and we are losing on that front. Coming back to that intelligence, I've already said about the limitations of intelligence. Don't expect that these apps will deliver any miracles. For the last 5-6 years, the whole world, with all the technology at their command, are looking for that group of 30 to 40 people. We haven't found it.
Let me give you one point. Many Muslims I've seen are either misled by their Islamic appeal, because there are some Muslim scholars are soft enough on the issues of death, and others are misled by their political arguments. I think one needs to bring hard Islamic Quranic arguments against them and very hard political arguments why they are a dead end, and they must be exposed.
All right, we're going to move on to a lady in the front row.
My question is for the panel for the motion. You have talked about finding common grounds, finding an entrance, and finding a solution through this situation, but it seems to me that you have forgotten the most important element in this situation, which is the victims and their families. Do you think that those people are willing to negotiate with Al-Qaeda in a very objective manner after what they have suffered?
I personally have not forgotten the victims. Let me just tell you an interesting story.
Briefly, please.
Very briefly. I was sitting with a lady in England, in Liverpool, whose son was beheaded. And I was with her when that news came forward. And she said to me, my grief is indescribable. Nothing can explain how I feel as a mother at this time. But then she went on to say something very important. She said, my grief is no different than the grief of a mother in Iraq who's just lost her children as a result of bombing, as a result of the invasion. Now, that was a remarkably compassionate thing to say at that present time. So there are many people who have not forgotten the grief. What we need to do is put an end to the grief. And the West has to build up a more effective relationship with the Islamic world, because eventually it will be the Islamic world that deals with Al-Qaeda and reduces it, divorces it from its base of support.
We're going to take questions from gentlemen in the second row.
Yes, this question is for the motion. Why should we talk to an organization that actually doesn't want to talk with us to begin with? I mean, even if we satiate their demands and yield to them, if you will, don't you think they'll actually demand even more? They're driven by a medieval ideology. Okay, go look at their websites. Look at the videos they're always issuing. I mean, seriously, how can we talk to them? How can we negotiate and talk with them as rational people if they aren't being rational to begin with?
Terry Waite.
The way you do it is gradually you work towards the people who have key positions of responsibility, who have influence. You sit down and you listen. And you enter into dialogue and you enter into a painstaking process, which is a long process. It is very difficult, it is very hard. But experience shows, from all the examples that we've been given, it is not impossible. Because
all right,
often,
are you convinced by that?
Not really, because the IRA, the Basque militias, for example, they had clear political demands.
Yeah.
Al-Qaeda doesn't have exactly any clear political demands. What they're demanding is, for example, getting rid of the West, fighting the Crusader West.
It has messianic demands. It has, in a sense, it has, as you've clearly described it. But also, we are stereotyping again. And what you have to do in dialogue is get behind the stereotype. We're making assumptions. You have to get behind the